Welcome to Dugout Chatter. We are going to see how America's pastime has shaped generations of young men and women into the determined people they are today.
Welcome, everybody, to Dugout Chatter.
Isn't that my job?
Yes.
I haven't even hit the timer yet. I don't even have my headphones on yet. But if you recognize that smooth voice, that is the voice of our former and current first guest on Dugout Chatter, Chris Capeletti.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up?
You'll never forget your first.
No, you don't.
No. It's
Gross.
been a while. It's been a while, right?
Even grosser.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Well, look at that. We're like barely,
back.
not even a minute in. So what's up, Chris? What's on your mind in the baseball world today?
Honestly, this is a sad time of year for sports, for me in general. I mean, turn on SportsCenter, and believe me, I love all kinds of sports, but when there's nothing but hockey and basketball, I love football. I do love football.
Yeah, I hate when it's like football's off season. You're trying to watch some baseball highlights, and it's like NFL training camp, football. You'll never believe what this guy did.
Contracts and this and that. That's how the football people feel right now when they're seeing all the baseball contracts.
Oh my God, dude. The baseball off season has to be, I don't know, because the baseball's the only sport I really watch, but it's such a boring off season. When people are like, winter meetings, this, money. Like,
these guys probably aren't doing very much. I mean, they play.
Well, they got to fill out their news cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. But I watch a lot of golf.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
No, dude. I legit. I remember one time when I was a kid, I was doing like a fishing trip with one of my buddies, and we're staying at like his uncle's place, and they're watching golf. And I'm literally there falling asleep, and he texts me. I look at my phone. He's like, "You look bored."
Well, to be honest, I do fall asleep watching golf.
No,
but the skill involved is impressive.
Yeah, no, it's a hard sport, but not a very.
You know how many people there are
one
out there that watch baseball and feel the same way?
Yeah. No, I get it. To each his own.
But there's a ton of skill involved in that game.
Yeah, I know. I hate when people say baseball is easy. I remember one time when I was in high school.
Oh, that gets my blood boiling.
Yeah, I know. There, one time when I was in high school, I'm at the lunch table, and one of the football players comes up, and as a baseball player, and we're just talking, eating our lunch. He's like, "Baseball's easy. All you do is run and throw." And I was like, then I'm like, "Yeah, football's easy. You just catch the ball and then tackle somebody." He's like, "There's more to it than that." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit."
Yeah, there's more to it than on both sides.
Yeah.
Baseball is like a game of chess, wherever like every situation is different. And
yeah, baseball is very incremental. It's like all of it is literally pitch to pitch.
Totally. Yes.
That's it?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It is pitch to pitch, and every situation feels different. How you got there was different, and what happens after is going to be different in every single situation that you play in.
Yeah. But one of the topics that's been on my mind a little bit, and by the time this comes out, I'm sure this statement will age well. Ohtani's going to get between somewhere in the ballpark of $500 million to $600 million. And I think whatever team gets that's really going to lose in the long run, because don't get me wrong, fantastic player, crazy shit we haven't seen since Babe Ruth, and he's doing it better than Ruth. But two Tommy Johns, you're paying twice the amount of value for one player when he's probably not going to be pitching in a few years. I just think whoever gets that contract is going to lose so much. I don't really like it, because I don't know. It's like you could invest that money in more players for World Series contention.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I hate to fall back on the movie Moneyball, the A's in the early 90s, but it's true. I mean, you never know what someone can do unless you give them a chance. However, Ohtani is an insanely good athlete. I've always been impressed by what he does.
Yeah, but it's the longevity that's the issue.
Exactly.
And that's what happens a lot now is you basically lock up someone until they're 40, and then you steal their prime years from any other team that could hope to have them, and then you eat ass on the back end of the contract. Like, look at how Stanton is with the Yankees. Man's on a 13-year deal. Like when he penned the contract, who is going to take him in a trade? Nobody.
Then
You're stuck.
What are guys doing in their late 30s anyway? They're just DH and mostly. I mean,
Yeah, and like now he's like 33 and struggling to hit 200, and he can never stay healthy.
I think we've talked about this before, but I'm really big on batting average.
Yeah, I know.
And on base percentage, because how do you score runs?
You get on base.
Exactly.
But I think batting average, and like, I don't know why the fuck this got mixed up in the baseball world. Batting average is the most important stat for a hitter. I don't care what your OPS plus is, because actually I don't
even really know what that is.
OPS plus is the dumbest fucking stat there is. So the point of it, so here's how many variables you have in it. You have the ballpark you play in, the era you play in, it accumulates your batting average, on base percentage, slugging, home runs, and all this. But the thing it doesn't really account for is mostly batting average. So
it doesn't take account batting average very highly.
No, it doesn't. Because I'll show you one example here. Just buy me a second, Chris, while I bring up the stat.
Really dumb. I think that batting average says a lot about, can you put the bat on the ball?
So
that's very important.
Here's here's the stat I wanted to bring up. So in 2007, Ichiro Suzuki hit 351. His OPS plus. Big. His OPS plus was 122. So by the definition of OPS plus, he was 22% better than the average hitter, which is bullshit. And then Kyle Schwarber in 2023 hit 197 with a 122 OPS plus.
197 is garbage at any level that you play.
I know.
I'm sorry, but that is
like, I don't care that he hit home runs. He's a one-tool player. He strikes out a lot. Like, him and Ichiro aren't the same hitter. That's what's so stupid about this stat. Like, that's not comparable information, because Ichiro's getting way more hits, way more stolen bases, putting way more pressure on the defense.
I would like to see stats on Kyle Schwarber's strikeouts.
Dude, he strikes out over 200 times a year.
That's what the power hitters are doing nowadays.
Because nowadays power hitters are truly one-tool players most of the time. Yeah. Because Schwarber can't run, he can't field, he definitely can't hit for average. He just hits home runs.
Actually, funny story. So Kyle Schwarber's from Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
I dated a girl for about a year who knows Kyle Schwarber, and he is like her baseball hero. He's an athlete, a freak athlete, no doubt. But I agree with you. You need to be able to get on base, help the team in other ways other than hit the ball 400 feet.
He can walk, but it's like, how much value does that bring? That's an
important stat.
But no, how much value does that bring when he's not a good base runner and he's not that fast at the major league level? Like, the player evaluation has changed so much in the weirdest ways.
So if you're that kind of guy, you just be more conservative on the bases, station to station.
But they haven't been fucking leadoff.
That's a mistake.
Why would you have the guy with the most home runs on your team?
He's a five-hole hitter to me.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want him third. I wouldn't want him fourth because he's going to strike out with guys on base. I'd want him fifth in case he runs into one. At the very least, put him behind Trey Turner. And like, I've talked about that on a previous podcast.
So he can knock Turner in. How you structure a lineup is extremely important.
But nowadays they do it so different. Like, they had Judge hitting leadoff in 22 when he was chasing Maris's record for the AL. It's baffling to me how much the lineup has changed, because how it was back in the early 2000s, and like, I might be a little, what's the word I'm looking for, biased, because I grew up on like early 2000s baseball, and I'm the youngest of four brothers, so I have a huge affinity for 90s baseball. But your leadoff hitter was, your guy that hit 300, stole bases, not a lot of pop, but yeah, he might run into like 10 a year.
Again, he gets on base.
And steals bases.
Yeah.
Like your Tony Womacs of the world, your Ichiros, your Jeters. And then your two-hole hitter was kind of your guy that kept the line moving. Kind of like an extension of your leadoff hitter.
They're basically almost the same hitter.
Yeah. But your two-hole
one and two are basically interchangeable.
Your two-hole hitter might have a little more pop.
Sure.
Might have a little more pop. Probably going to be a lefty. And then your three-hole hitters, your ace in the hole for your
high
lineup.
Average.
That's your all around best hitter. He's usually your three hitter.
Normally the best athlete on the team.
Yeah. It was like the shortstops of the 90s and early 2000s, like the Nomar, A-Rod, Jeter era. But now it's changed to like, you got these high walk, high strikeout guys hitting at the top of the lineup.
Well, that tells you something. They're looking for one pitch.
Yeah. But that's the way that the money has filtered into the game, is you're only going to pay people to pad out OPS plus, and the best way to do it is to hit home runs.
Well, chicks dig the long ball, dude.
Yeah, I know. But back then,
That's where
guys,
small balls gotten lost.
But back then, guys who hit the long ball could hit like 270, 280, sometimes 300.
Right.
Like Mark McGwire didn't have a low average. Frank Thomas didn't have a low average. Jeff Bagwell didn't.
So that's where the conversation of how pitching has evolved. And okay, so talking about 90s baseball,
dude,
early 2000s baseball.
I've been thinking about more like, yes, stuff in the leagues probably went up a tick, but everything has over time. It's natural progression of things. But one thing is, the way that they track velocity is a little different now because they do it out of the hand instead of coming in. So it's going to make it harder. So
slightly less.
So the radar guns,
velocity.
the radar guns might have a bit more of a boost nowadays.
Okay.
But back then,
that I didn't know.
Back then, there was still power pitching. Maybe not as much now, but there was still power pitching.
In your closer position, for sure.
Because Randy Johnson, he threw gas. AJ Burnett threw gas. Josh Beckett threw gas. Kurt Schilling threw gas. Billy Wagner. There's still a lot of hard throwing pitchers. I mean, obviously Eric Gagne. Like, there was dudes back then.
Yeah.
And Mo with his cutter still threw mid 90s.
And John Rocker too, even though he'd bounce 115 feet in front of the plate every now and then. It was fun to watch. It was exciting.
And Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro had two pitches.
But his changeup was unreal.
Disgusting.
But back then, pitching has changed so much because if you ask me, pitchers aren't pitchers now, they're throwers. They just go out there, grip it and rip it. And a lot of them even say that. Like, they don't know how to navigate a lineup as efficiently as those guys. That's why innings have come down, because here's the kitchen sink for my 4 or 5 innings today.
Yeah.
And you think that doesn't contribute to arm issues?
Totally. You're going max effort for every single pitch, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And then when
that's fine, but
when you're in a stressful situation and you're already doing that a lot, you're just going to keep tensing up. Because like the way Justin Verlander, when he was in his prime with the Tigers, and like, yeah, he's still great, but his like prime age years with the Tigers, he started out the game in the low 90s and keep ticking it up.
They work his way up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how the hell you do that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, pitchers back then, I feel like they just knew how to be more efficient because they were expected to throw like 200, 220 innings a year.
Well, that's where you have to be a true starter. Like, my mentality, if you asked me to pitch a game, I want to start because, okay, first inning, I'm not going to show you what I got. It's like almost like playing
first
poker.
inning, you're going to throw a lot of fastballs.
A lot of fastballs, maybe a couple of breaking balls here and there.
Yeah, like if you get in that count, like show that you have it, but you're mostly going to attack with fastballs, try to get them to get themselves out.
Starters, as the game goes on, like that's when you deal your nastiest shit.
Yeah,
totally. You go
with runners in scoring position, or like you know you're coming near the end. That's when you empty the tank.
Totally.
Now the tank's emptied as it starts.
This might surprise you, but my most uncomfortable situation as a pitcher, just solely as a pitcher, is just a guy on first base. That's my most uncomfortable position.
I get that because you're thinking about a steal the whole time.
You got to be quick to the plate.
And you're like, do I quick pitch? How long am I going to hold the ball and looks back? Like, yeah, guy on first is hard.
And not many guys have ever really stolen off me on the mound, and that comes in with your
You got to vary your moves to the plate.
Exactly. Again, another game of poker.
Yeah.
So you're playing two games of poker.
Okay, going back to the game of poker.
Yeah.
Throw in Ichiro on first instead of Kyle Schwarber. See what I'm saying? Doesn't that make a huge difference?
Second base, because when guys on second base, my most comfortable position.
But you see what I mean? Because people, they kind of brush that off nowadays in terms of analytics, but it's like that makes a difference when you know you got a burner on the base. Like
situations
nowadays, you got Ronald Acuna on first. Probably shouldn't have brick.
Yeah, exactly. Now, okay. Speaking of him, because I'm a Braves fan. And I've watched him hit quite a bit. Dude,
he does some ridiculous shit. Like I watched
with his frame, like he's strong.
But he's so efficient
to the
ball. He's so efficient. Exactly. It's ridiculous. Like I saw one highlight of him on MLB Network. He's playing at Comerica, and that's like one of the biggest fields in the league. It's like 420 to dead center. A guy throws a curveball. It's like, a competitive pitch, but one a hitter could get to, and it's like kind of low and away, not like truly on the corner, but Acuna just gets his barrel to it. He's off balance and hits it off the batter's eye in center. I'm like, what that is? Fuck?
That's forearms, baby.
But dude,
and that's keeping your hands back too.
Not everyone can do that because his loading position is different. Because you see a lot of guys, they'll kind of like, push their left hand out, but he kind of just casts back and then rips it to the ball. Like kind of how Jeter would go back this way instead of like getting the cock the other way.
No, do you go and
because
no, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was a kid, like 6, 7 years old, my stepdad had me hitting. Was it Chuck Knobloch?
Oh my God!
Laid the bat back, but it makes sense because it's
knob to the ball, and that's kind of what Acuna does in his load.
Exactly, and any player that I've ever watched that wraps the bat around their head, even just a little bit, and especially at the major league level, you're talking about hitting in the mid 90s with pitches that move.
And one thing people don't think about, like
the ball,
a curveball is in the low to mid 80s.
Right.
That's a lot of movement at a pretty substantial velocity.
So that's where eyesight comes into play big time, because if you're keen on reading a pitch out of the hand, then you can at least keep your hands back. It doesn't matter if your body is forward, as long as you keep your hands back,
you still got a chance of getting a knock.
You have a chance, and you could be on your front foot, fooled like a clown, and still hit the ball in the gap for a double or even a home run.
Yeah, that's hitting.
Exactly. I could sit on a bucket all day long and teach hitting. That's my dream job.
You want to talk some hitting then?
Absolutely.
Or do you want to start, Coach Capeletti?
Hitting should be simple because it's hard enough as it is. And I don't know. Where do you want to go with that? I mean,
I don't know. Do you want to talk about some great hitters and what they do?
Yeah. Look up videos of Mickey Mantle.
Oh my God, bro. That guy had forearms through the ball because
he was also a huge drunk that would get trashed at the fucking bars the night before and then go out and hit home runs. I mean, bro, what's a better hero than that?
So the movie 61, it's about the 1961 season between their race for 61 and the year before in 60, Mantle being a drunk got hurt, still hit like 45 bombs. And then the GM's talking to the press. He's like, you know how many guys in the league would kill to have that kind of off year?
For real.
But when you talk about players who would last today or would be able to play today from previous generations, Mickey Mantle's one of them.
Yep. Joe DiMaggio, probably one of them.
I don't think Babe Ruth would hold a candle to today's baseball players.
Oh God. I mean, it's super impressive what he did back then.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the bats that they used in his era,
they swung logs.
Giant bats. I think his bat
there was no regulation on the size in ounces.
No, his bat was like a 35 or a 36 inch. It had to be in the high 30s in the ounces.
Yeah. Because nowadays a bat can't be like plus
like a
2.
40 something ounce bat.
Yeah. I don't think the bats in the big leagues can be like plus 2 what you're swinging.
Do you watch Baseball Bat Bros?
I think a little bit. Are they?
They made a video about using like old school bats.
Yeah.
And the Babe Ruth bat was like this giant log.
Like no wonder he's like here.
Yeah. Like kind of, he looks lazy swinging it, but that's how you got to swing a telephone pole. You got to kind of like relax and bam.
That's why power hitters have heavier bats and contact hitters have lighter bats.
What do you prefer?
In terms of like
balance wise,
medium balance. Like I don't want it to be top heavy or bottom heavy. Like I want it to be center balance.
Yeah. Balance.
I fucking hate top heavy bats.
You pop up a lot.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it's just like, because when you load, it feels fine, but then when you start swinging, I just feel like everything starts dropping. But that's also where you got to know your swing. Like
exactly.
That's not my play. My job is spraying the ball, mostly going to the right side.
Getting on base to score runs.
Exactly.
So
like I know not
win a baseball game.
Yeah. I'm a guy who's a table setter and the guy who's kind of annoying because like I'll grind out in a bat. Like you've seen me have like
we've talked about this once before, but just so whoever's listening, we watched McKay go an entire season hitting nothing but scud line drives straight at the outfielder.
To be fair, I still
straight at the outfielder.
Hit 250 barreling balls at people.
Yeah, but you'd watch him come off, and he'd be. McKay might be a little frustrated, but what are you gonna tell him? You hit the ball on the nose. Do you hit it right on the screws?
Every time.
Don't change a thing.
Every time you'd be at the dugout looking like proud of him, you'd be like, don't change a thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's rough. It's a hard knock life.
Hitting is a failing thing.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that and just enjoy the moment of when you're successful and up and down.
One game I played, I was so happy because I got a sack fly.
Yeah.
Dude, anytime you bring a run in.
What?
Yeah.
How do you win the ball game?
You get runs across the plate.
Yeah, you got to get on base.
And guess what? You don't have to be the hero.
No. So, for example,
really quick, going into the hero thing, the media and the big leagues don't know the heroes, but the boys in the dugout, they're going to know what you did for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very true thing.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be the hero because guess what? You come through, get a sack fly, lead off walk when you're down to run. Those are the shit that your teammates are going to remember.
Totally. And it actually applies to real life too. I mean, in the business world, when you're working with a team, there's plenty of people out there that work for themselves or work by themselves, et cetera. Most people work with a team and you have a chain of command, or you have people that work under you, or both. And being a team player is probably the most valuable thing in sports and probably the most valuable thing in real life, because people see that. When you're a true team player, people see that.
People know when you go the extra mile.
And they want you to be on their team, because not only are you going to help yourself first and foremost, but you're going to help everyone else. And that's the point.
So one podcast I guested on, because my job, I'm a podcast producer. So I was on this podcast called Mama's Playground, and they were just talking about because there's this mainly parenthood type stuff. And they're like, how does sports affect you as a kid? And I was like, one time, one of my first jobs when I was 18, going to school, I just applied at a grocery store. And then they're like, oh, what do you like doing for fun? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh yeah, I played baseball. I love playing baseball. And then the manager was interviewing me. He's just like, really? My athletes are my best employees. And I'll tell you,
I believe it.
Everywhere else you go, people are going to know that. Because they know that if you grind in a sport, you're going to grind at work.
Yeah, the team sport thing, I mean, honestly, and I'm not a military veteran. I know you're not either, but I deeply respect it. It's like but it's kind of the same, or not same, but similar sort of mindset when you go into battle with certain people, especially the games that you really want to win.
Yeah.
Think of one team that you really wanted to fucking beat.
Yeah.
Those guys, you probably know all of their names, and you remember exactly how it felt and the relationship that you built with them. It goes across decades. I mean, I can call up people from JV high school baseball when we were going to the county championships to play Wellington, and it was we got off the bus and we're Vikings, ready to go.
Yeah.
That was a slugfest, by the way. We lost 16-14.
Oh my God.
Everybody hit the baseball. It was a beautiful night to watch hitting. That's for sure.
If you're a pitching coach, update your resume.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we didn't have one really. They probably did. I don't know.
Well, what's something baseball taught you? I feel like we're tying this in a lot more to life than we are just about baseball. I mean, that's kind of the point I like getting at on this podcast is.
Yeah,
playing baseball a lot of years. I mean,
a whole life. I mean,
it gave me such a deep appreciation for the game, all its little intricacies, and all those practices I've applied to my everyday life and how much it did for me as a person through the lows and the highs. It helped me out of the lows a lot.
I think baseball, for me, first of all, taught me how to work with others, of course.
Yeah.
But it also taught me how to recognize my position, my role,
your
my
tools
role on the team, and how can I best help the team, and how can I maybe work on other things that I'm not so good at to best help the team. And I think that's a huge lesson in life, knowing what you know and also knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what you don't know, then you're lost. We all know what we know, of course, but if you can actually sit there and realize, what do I not know? What am I not good at? What are my weaknesses?
And that's the good thing about baseball is like, when it comes to that, from translating what you're saying to the game, if you're cocky, it'll humble you on what you think you're good at.
So we were having a conversation earlier about a certain very high profile player that I know people who have played with him, and cocky is an understatement. And
can you name names?
Yeah. I don't think he'd get too mad, but he was a coach on my JV team when I was a freshman, Brian Dittmer. The Dittmer family is a very well-known baseball family in Palm Beach Gardens. So Brian Dittmer, he's a few years older than me. Mm-hmm. He was one of my JV coaches, but he remembers A-Rod and playing against him, and just kind of didn't have great things to say about him. I mean, obviously he's a freak athlete, but talking about cockiness and stuff like that, that was the whole thing with the Gardens program, at least back then, was there's a fine line between confident and cocky, and you can ride that line a little bit with your confidence. You want to be confident, of course. Who wants to go to the plate and feel like they're going to shit the bed, you know? Mm-hmm. But when you're cocky, that's no good. It's not good for team chemistry.
Yeah, you need to be confident, not cocky.
Exactly.
There's a lot of interesting stories about A-Rod and when he was in Miami in high school. I mean, like, I was watching Foul Territory. I'm sure you've seen it when they had Doug Mankiewicz on and he was telling a bunch of A-Rod and Jeter stories. Fucking gold if you haven't seen that.
I haven't
Seriously.
seen it.
No, you got to check it out. Write that down.
What's it called?
Doug Mankiewicz. He was on Foul Territory. It's what Scott Braun's doing now that he left MLB Network.
Doug, how you spell his last name?
Dude, that's a good fucking question.
I'm just going to go.
Mankiewicz, Doug Mankiewicz. Like, I don't know. I mean, we could look it up. We have technology, but we're not doing that now. Doug Mankiewicz. Anyway, he played with A-Rod in high school. And there's just so many interesting stories. Like you said, like, it's not like anyone really had anything bad to say about him back then, but he was like, what Doug was saying was like, he's basically been told what to say his whole life because he was so good at baseball. Yeah. Then you got to be politically correct in the major league stratosphere.
The one story I heard about him was
that he was just basically told what to say his whole life.
Yeah. One story I heard from Dittmer was that after his last game of the season, his senior year, he signed his cleats and went over to hand them to his head coach, because I guess he didn't like his head coach very much. And he was just kind of like, oh, you better save those, you know. He's that kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, fast forward, he wasn't exactly wrong.
No, he wasn't.
If his coach sold them by like his Mariners tenure, he did well.
Anyone that gets drafted to play shortstop in the big leagues is probably a good athlete.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's hard to be actually a big league shortstop.
Pitchers, surprisingly enough, are really good athletes.
Some of them.
Yeah.
You'll get some.
David Wells is not in the conversation.
But he threw a perfect game.
He did. Half drunk.
Yeah. Dude, that's how you do it. Some of the best games of my life, I was hungover as shit. You see me in men's league?
That was kind of the running joke for a season or so, is
because it was true. So one funny story. This was before like our season opener, coming off of our championship men's league season.
Oh God.
Breaking Benjamin was in town. They were with Alice in Chains.
I remember this.
Yes. So
I'm jealous, by the way.
Awesome concert. I was so drunk before it. Like I love Breaking Benjamin. That was like the 4th or 5th time I've seen them. And like by like halfway through their set, I was like, pretty good. I drank a fair amount. And then Alice in Chains goes on. I'm drunk, and then I'm like, Kieran, it's my brother. Mm-hmm. We don't have to stay for them. I saw them with Korn like last year. So can't complain about that either.
Nah,
but anyway,
Korn's awesome live.
Yeah.
We could honestly sit here and talk about rock music for quite a while.
But anyway, so my brother and I are drinking. Somehow he got us a free round of Jack and Coke at a concert. And then I posted a picture on Facebook with me and my brother. And then like, I made some like tongue in cheek joke. And then Donnie, our team manager, comments. He's like, oh, I know what that means. I show up the next day hungover as balls and get like 3 hits, strike out 2 guys. When I was pitching, I had a great ball game.
It's funny how that happens.
What was your recollection of that? Bro, I remember honestly, I burned the left fielder bad.
Yeah,
like I ripped one.
I do remember this game. It was just like, I mean, to be honest with you, you were hitting like you were hitting the whole season. The balls were falling in the right place.
Yeah.
Versus the left fielder not having to move or take 2 steps to catch it. I was happy, dude. I was like, thank God. Finally McKay's getting on base. Thank God.
So good off the barrel. Cause like one of them, oh my God, I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt like, I mean, obviously everyone knows it feels like nothing, but I was just like, I felt like my body moved in perfect sync. And then, when you look up to see where the ball's going to judge where you're going to, like how you're going to run the bases, I look up and I see it go up into the blue sky and then just shoot out really fast. I'm like, holy shit, I hit that ball hard.
Great feeling. Whoa. It's a great feeling. That feeling for me, it's right before the ball.
You can feel your hips and hands turning into it.
When it's about 5 or 6 feet out and I know, all right, it's sitting on a tee.
So,
and that's
I think the hit I got after that, I might've liked it a little bit more just because like it was me working my baseball IQ a little. So the umpire we had, remember it was that one that was calling the left-handed batter's box chalk a strike for a righty.
Yes.
So dude, what I did was I was like, all right, any pitcher is going to take their luck, like not even luck, you have that part of the plate, abuse it. So I crowd the plate really hard.
So then you got to be ready to turn.
No, I crowded the plate because I knew they were going to be working away so I could get more plate coverage. So, and they stuck away. And then one pitch, and like, keep in mind, I'm crowding the plate, the big outside zone. I reach out with my barrel and like, I feel my whole body extended and like, I feel like my torso's over home plate and I rip it through the 6 hole for a single.
Damn.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that hit.
Cause dude, I scorched that one.
Maybe I didn't see it. I remember the one to left field though.
Yeah, it was like
that was earlier in the game.
It was my bad after that. Like I really got on the plate, hands high, and then just because I remember like I finished out so far, like I finished here. And I normally have a 2-handed finish. I was like one-handed, like already my body was falling towards first. Like that felt good.
Man, there's nothing like getting a great hit in a clutch situation. Oh my God.
Dude,
I don't know.
One of my favorite ones, like of recent memory, is like my girlfriend was there, and like I just scorched a hard ground ball up the middle. Like it made the pitcher jump away from it. I was like, oh, the sound of the barrel.
Yeah. Nothing like that sound. I think honestly, one of my best and most amazing clutch hits, happened in a softball game, co-ed softball game. We were in the championship game. We were down 4. Bases loaded. I took 2 pitches and then I hit this softball. This is probably the farthest ball I've ever hit in my life. I'm not kidding. Besides a golf ball.
Abuse it.
I did. I spanked it and it was incredible. But that kind of feeling, doesn't come around very often and you got to enjoy it. You got to kind of soak in it a little bit, but then kind of realize like, okay, that happened. Now it's time to move on and go to the next best thing.
Yeah.
What can I do next?
And how true is that for life?
That is life. It's
like, that's why I feel like baseball, out of every sport, it's going to teach you probably the most life lessons.
so how many guys have you seen hit a home run and then strike out their next at bat?
Can't even tell you.
Yeah, it normally happens.
Yeah. Remember, actually, you remember, I forgot what year this was, but it was Vlad Jr.
I love this guy.
He went 4 for 4 against the Yankees with 3 home runs and a double. Next night, golden sombrero.
There you go.
Like, dude, you can't get too high because guess what? You're going to get humble pie for days.
That's right. So we've been talking about team sports for a long time.
Because there's always competition.
Yeah. And the competition is going to learn where you're weakest at, and they're going to attack that. And I mean, we've been talking about team sports and, baseball and stuff and how it helps with life. And I'm always going to go on the other side too with individual sports.
Yeah, with tennis.
With boxing, with anything, with like martial arts or anything like that, where you're one-on-one with somebody. And so then
it's a lot of accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're under a magnifying glass.
There's no one you can blame but yourself at that point.
No, of course.
Because that is the one thing about baseball is it's easy to be like, oh, we lost because of him. Like, no,
you can't blame
there
one
was
person.
So many things that happened in that game.
But if I lose a tennis match, then either I was not performing well that day, or I just got overmatched.
That happens.
Or it comes, honestly, and I know that this isn't a tennis podcast, but a lot of matches, if you watch them, come down to the really key moments and how you handle those.
That's the same with baseball.
And what you do.
That's the same with baseball.
It is, but it might not be you in that situation. You might be playing left field when a key situation comes up, or you might be catching or pitching or whatever, or you might be hitting. But in an individual sport like tennis, you have to be present 100% of the time. And it's rough. Like, it takes serious mental fortitude. Like, if you listen to Novak Djokovic interviews, this guy's talking about going to Reiki healers and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he's a little bit weird, but I mean,
he'd be a pitcher. He'd be a pitcher.
He would be a pitcher. He would. Rafa Nadal would probably be like your center fielder.
Yeah.
Federer would probably be a pitcher also. I don't know. But it's funny how the two different sides, team sports and individual sports, can affect people. And I've always said, if I had kids, they're going to do a team sport or a team something and do an individual something. Mm-hmm. Because then you're more well-rounded.
Yeah, that's true. And I think playing an instrument adds into the other half of your brain.
Absolutely. It takes discipline, as you know.
Yeah.
It takes practice.
Oh my God, when I first started learning to play the guitar, the finger calluses.
Amen to you.
Oh my God. But you've seen me. Like, I can play pretty well for jamming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing crazy, but I can jam.
We played Deftone songs together. We've played funk and blues together.
Yeah.
So McKay on the guitar, me on the bass. We just need a drummer.
We do. Hey, do you play the drums? Do you play, if you're watching the video, do you play the drums? If you're listening to the audio, do you play the drums?
I love drums. I can't play them.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Man.
So
baseball.
It's
my favorite sport.
I miss it. I do. Every day I think about it.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing that's not really talked about a lot, and that I've gotten into dove into on a lot of episodes, is what it's like when you stop playing. I mean, it's really hard when you hang up the cleats. I don't care what the fuck you do. You're still thinking about it. I mean, man, like I still miss those days where it's like, get out of school and just go play baseball. Like, that's your life.
That was the life, honestly.
That bereavement process, when you're done,
Yeah.
For most people, it's a difficult one to navigate. And like one thing I had the pleasure of meeting Dwight Gooden, and he said like for players who are currently playing, whatever you're planning on doing after baseball, start doing it in the off season.
Yeah, definitely.
So you get that into your life.
You got to plan ahead.
Yeah. And like, obviously no matter what you're doing when you're playing a sport, that sport's your identity. You got to find the next piece. For me, the best thing baseball has done for me is I feel like it's been the one true thing that's given me a sense of escapism. Because everything else I do to try to get that, I just feel like it's procrastination. But baseball, it's always been the one thing that's made me feel like not shut off my brain, but like calm my mind.
So I can relate to that for sure. The most comfortable place I've ever felt was on a baseball field my whole life.
Because that one season I coached, and like, believe me, I want to coach more. It was so much fun coaching a high school team. It did a lot for me. I felt lucky to get to do it.
But did it make you want to play?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like I went up there, like I was playing catch with the kids, warming up with them before the game. And I was like, all right, I shaved my beard. I look like I'm a fucking freshman. Give me one of your uniforms. I'm taking this kid 450 passed. Dead center. See you later.
You could have passed as a sophomore.
Yeah, I could.
Probably.
Bro, I'm fucking king of JV right now.
Yeah, I have to shave my whole head.
No, dude, if I shave my beard, I will look like a fucking 16-year-old.
I believe it. I got too much gray on my head now.
Yeah. But me, it was fun.
Yeah, going through life after baseball is tough. And I think personally, at the time I wasn't prepared to make adjustments and deal with the change. Cause it was so abrupt and traumatic. And
it's like that for everyone.
You know,
it really is.
It's sometimes, players, they just have their last game of the season and they know kind of, okay, I'm not going anywhere. Then they can sort of deal with that. Maybe not. It's a personal thing. But when you have a traumatic injury, it really like is very abrupt, and then trying to come back afterwards and make a serious run at it. So that was my situation. I mean, I dislocated my throwing shoulder diving back to first base. Things you do thousands of times.
Yeah.
And this freak incident ended my playing career. My serious playing career anyway. Had surgery, whatever. And it took 7 years to throw baseball without pain.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow. It took me 8 months to be able to raise my right hand over my head.
Damn.
It was bad, but I was a bulldog. I was a bulldog through that whole process.
Yeah. Cause the whole time you're like, no, it doesn't hurt. It feels fine. I can play.
And that's all I cared about, was getting back on the field and doing what I love to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like this podcast, I don't know. I wanted to reach like people who are still playing and people who have played. You know what I mean? Because there's a disparity between the two. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? There is. Because when you're in the thick of it, it's life. It's all you're doing. But after it, I don't know. It's weird looking back at it sometimes.
I think some people, and this is just, again, a personal thing, having something to fall back on.
Yeah.
Is great.
Having something to fall back on is great, but it's like, dude, when that's your dream. Mm-hmm. And then some people like I've talked to when I was like, working, trying to find my place in the world, they're like, why don't you go back and you don't want to play minor league baseball? I'm like, it's not that fucking easy.
No, it's not.
Like, yeah, I'd love to go back and play minor league baseball. It's you just don't go and be like, hey, can I play for you guys? No. Because no, if you could, you would be pretty much, or you'd seriously be trying out. Like I knew, like I was fucking 5'9", $140, soaking wet. Like who's gonna want me?
Well, nowadays it's easier to get signed if you have that kind of frame.
But I wasn't fast. Who's gonna want me? Exactly.
Yeah, you got to work on your speed.
Dude, speed is one
Got
thing.
plenty of skills though.
No,
I've seen them.
I know, but I'm talking about in terms of making it professionally. Oh my God. You don't just be like, yeah, I'm going to go. In rookie ball, you can get, dude, in rookie ball is wild because you'll get people throwing triple digits, but they literally don't know what area code it's going to be in.
Right. It might be down the block somewhere.
And then next thing you know, slider painted low and away. Oh my God. That just makes me think. So I feel like, at least for me, because you've seen how horrible my luck is as a hitter.
I've never seen anyone with worse luck. I mean, the guy who hits the ball on the screws,
but
more often than anyone I've seen.
But where I'm getting at with this, I feel like I can just count the times this has happened. Your boys are having an offensive parade. Like everyone's drilling the ball everywhere. I come up, the guy paints his best 3 pitches of the night. I strike out looking. I feel like that was me sometimes.
Oh, it's an awful feeling.
It's like, I didn't know he threw a curveball because he was throwing meatballs all night. But anyway, any closing stories you want to hit at? I've banged my gavel.
Not really. I mean, we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah. No, this podcast, this one didn't really have any sense of direction.
Sometimes those are okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are, I will say though that.
But this is what it's like when you're playing. Like you'll have this discussion with your teammates.
For sure.
Because, okay, doing this podcast for a few months and like trying to figure out where I wanted to go. And I realized like kind of now more so what I want it to be. Like I want it to be a conversation that baseball players have, not about who's hitting what average. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of baseball content now sucks, honestly. Like I listened to John Boy's podcast. All it was is reading sabermetrics. I'm like, this isn't baseball content. This is stats.
I mean, I guess if you're a math wizard, that's
like, yes, it has its purpose, but I'm like, I don't know.
Like when you get down to the nitty gritty, I mean, just a short story, for example, while I was away in college, so right next to my old house, where I spent, 13 years in St. Lucie West, down the street is the Mets single A facility and their spring training facility. So while I was gone, my mom hosted, one of the second basemen, minor league guy. And so I didn't know anything about it until I got back. It was like a couple of years after I got back. She told me, oh, by the way, there was a minor league guy living here. I'm like, what? Anyway, I guess his name was Danny. I don't remember his last name. But she told me some stories about how rough it seemed like he had it. And to be honest with you, like kind of how depressed he was and, how rough the life seemed. And
minor league life, especially going back then, was horrible.
It's rough, man.
Dude.
We're talking 10 years ago.
Yeah. Like nowadays is better. It's still not great. That's one thing I hate about with the major leagues now is like these guys make all these hundreds of millions of dollars and they fucking complain about it. It's like, dude, if you play 10 years in the league, you're set for life. And I get that's not easy to do. But also what about the people like we saw Drew Maggi come up 13 years in the minor leagues. He gets his first big league game. That man has no fucking money.
13 years is a long time.
I know. Like, that's what I'm like, give these guys enough to fucking eat.
So what I like,
I think major league players are so greedy sometimes.
Yeah. And what I look at is, for example, because I work in the fishing tackle industry now. So if you go to the Bassmaster Classic, they used to pay millions of dollars for the winner. So they took that down to $300,000 so that they could pay everyone else.
Yeah.
So that they could make a living. That's the kind of model that I firmly believe that baseball needs to go to is, okay.
And like, don't get me wrong, the major league players should be making more money, but the discrepancy is astronomical.
It's out of this world.
Because some minor league baseball players, their W-2 for their time on the team is $1,800. And that's,
wow.
Bro, how many months of playing? Like 6-7 months of games.
And that doesn't account and all that stuff.
Just games. Crazy. Just games alone. That doesn't count training, fitness, nutrition, all that.
Yeah.
Like that's barely a month's rent.
I know.
Minor league players need to be taken a little bit more care of.
The biggest advocate that I know personally for this is a guy by the name of Nick Rickles. He went through the minor leagues and got to AAA, played with some of the really great names, you know, from the Athletics. Yeah, he's big on this because he lived through it, you know, talking about making a few $100 a month and fighting over volunteer time so you can get a gift card to go to Subway or something like that. Yeah, that's what it's like, man. I mean, they have your like volunteer programs that you can go and make an appearance, sign some autographs, and then you get a $50 gift card to Subway.
That's why I didn't take the last CBA too seriously. And again, not trying to discount the owners, you know, trying to screw over the major league players, nature of the beast. But it's like, at the end of the day, the people who are the future of the game, what do they got? You know what I mean?
And how do you measure that too?
It's tough.
It's all forecasting and, someone gets hurt. Now you owe millions of dollars. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, like we were saying, like whoever gets Shohei Ohtani, I mean, like, yeah, once in a lifetime type of talent.
I feel like they also don't allow pitchers to play other positions because a lot of them can. A lot of them can hit. A lot of them can play outfield or an infield position.
They can, but when you're talking about it at the major league level, that's a different beast.
Then I guess outfield is the one to do it. I guess.
But no, try to time up major league pitching. That's what I'm saying.
It's hard.
Yeah, but anyway, we got to get wrapping up. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't know. We kind of just came in and hit record, and then this is what happened. So,
right on.
It was an interesting take.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a fun episode. Well, Chris, thank you for coming back.
My pleasure as always.
Mr.
Thanks for having me.
Capeletti.